Ready? Okay. This is Ray Harwood at Bigfoot Quest magazine, and I'm interviewing Carl Crew about Jerry Crew, his great uncle, and we're gonna just chat along and have a good conversation. And yeah, it's Dr. Meldrum had some kind of medical issue, and they had to take him off the Alaska Bigfoot cruise on I guess on a boat that went into Catch Cannon. They helicoptered him or something.
Yeah, a helicopter. Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
terrible, terrible.
Yeah,
Well, we got to keep praying for him.
right. Yeah,
There's no update on it, huh?
I saw one person who said they thought he was stabilized, but they didn't cite any reference to how they would know that. So I don't know.
All right.
I've been trying to contact people I know that are on the cruise,
Yeah.
but
Trust God on that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you do your best. Praying.
My friend just bought a plaster cast from him too.
Oh,
John
wow.
from Western Bigfoot Exploration. Yeah.
Yeah, those are amazing casts.
Yeah, I got to get one of those. He said it's the exact same animal that it's Jerry's print because the structure of the bones and everything on the foot is exactly the same, so they think it's the same animal.
Wow.
Or the same Bigfoot. Let's call it. Yeah.
Right. That's kind of crazy because some of those early prints from Patterson area, the Patterson Gimlin site and Buff Creek, I guess the soil there, the substrate or the soil and the riverbed that was so conducive to making a print, like almost a perfect sand casting of it almost.
Well, it was very thick. I mean, when my father was hired, he logged his way through medical school, watering down the roads in trucks where they sprayed water all over the roads because the dust would come up so much that if it wasn't wet. And he actually taught my uncle Jim to do the same thing when they were working with Jerry up there. But the funny thing is like, like Ray Wallace's fake print, to set it down in that dust, it wouldn't do anything. But the compression of hundreds of pounds of the real print was so intense, that it made really perfect prints. Yeah.
And if you look at the difference between Ray Wallace's wooden clodhoppers,
it's hilarious.
Yeah, and then you look at the real ones that have like an anatomical structure, and they also have biological movement. There's no like perfect slap. They're like sideways, just the toe, just the heel, just like if you were walking in a rough beach. Your foot adapts as you walk along and flexes, and that's all represented in those prints.
Yeah, Ray Wallace's looked like a surfer's print. It looks it's ridiculous, like.
And go ahead. Oh, you were saying last time we spoke that that what's interesting too is Ray Wallace said that he made all the prints, yet there was prints before, and
hundreds of years.
Yeah, and there was also prints all over the United States. And the Yeti and
he gets around.
It's like Ray Wallace has been all over the
globe. Baby, it's absurd. They really couldn't announce until he died. That's when the family chose to say, "Oh, Bigfoot's dead. It was our father the whole time." They couldn't have done that before because Ray Wallace would have never stood up to the interviews that he would have to go through. I mean, because he was that kind of a.
He wouldn't handle a scrutiny and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah. So they waited, and then that way they cash in all his fake prints. That makes their fake prints more valuable. So.
Just the one question is about what about the prints in Nepal, or whatever,
Oh yeah.
Come on, or in Florida.
Or everywhere, yeah. And like he even tried to credit his wife for wearing the Patty suit for Patterson Gimlin film. Come on, man. I mean, we were just talking about that. There's the technology was not there for anything like that. The muscles. Go ahead.
If it was a suit, I mean, I think bodybuilding was probably a little farther along than they were in the contests.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know when Schwarzenegger was winning, but whoever's in there, man, that muscles are insane.
It's crazy. Yeah, but then there's the gait of the step. that was, it's not, you can't do it as a human. You can't make those steps as a human. In fact, there was $100,000 reward for anyone who could mimic the steps. And one of Ray Wallace's sons got all the press together. He got the fake stompers on, and he tied himself to the back of a truck, and he made the truck start to drive, and he tried to imitate he got into a huge accident and had to go to the hospital in front of all the press. Yeah, it was a mess. Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at the film, Patterson Gimlin film from '67, what really has me, so I'm like, I never really thought about it until maybe a couple of years ago, and I started really paying attention. And it's the calf muscles.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just, you look at the calf muscles, and it just looks like when you go on a horseback ride, or you see a pack train with the donkeys or mules. It's just the way the calf muscles have the perfect hair wear pattern that correspond with the functionality of the muscles, and how they, with where the tendons attach. To me, it looks very biological and anatomically correct. To me,
Absolutely.
the calf.
Let alone the titties.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Yeah,
Yeah, I focused on those quite a bit too.
No,
I'm a calf.
no, but I mean, like, really, come on. That detail, no one would come up with that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what the concept is like, but I don't know. I think I did a little bit of research, and I found out that the saline breast implants came out the same year, but they were in France. They weren't over here yet.
They are from France.
No one is really into getting those yet.
Of course it came from France. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, then yeah, but yeah, and then you see the hair pattern going down the spine, and the the back muscles, and the
yeah, and the face. I mean,
yeah, the
who's
face.
that guy from Canada who's has all those pictures of Bigfoot? It's all kind of fakey. Todd somebody.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, like, you think of these pictures and like, oh boy, just, I don't know, man. I totally doubt it. I doubt it. But the funny thing about that people don't know mostly is that when after Jerry had taken the he took cardboard and he traced out the print, and he took it in to Bob Titmus and showed it to him, and that's when Bob Titmus sold him the kit to do the plaster. And he eventually took a plaster cast into Bob Titmus, and he couldn't believe it. He was like, wow. He goes, well, you know what? There's my friend Al Hodgkinson. He's going to be out. You should have him come by your place and check him out. And he said, okay. He came out to Jerry's house and looked at them. He said, well, I don't know, man. It looks like you're being, someone's trying to fool you. And Jerry said, no, it couldn't be, because there's too many of them and they go over a cliff, and it's just, that's not it. And he goes, and Jerry drew the map to the location and gave it to Al. And this is what ended up in Bob Gimlin's hands. And this is how Bob and Roger found that location and got that. It was following the map from Jerry Crew. Not many people know that. Yeah.
Oh. Would you know what happened to the map? Is it still in possession of somebody?
I have no idea. I do have somewhere I have a letter from Bob Titmus to Jerry saying that, you know what? You're totally right. They are real. And, I'm sorry for doubting it. Yeah, Wade showed me that letter. It was a very short little letter, but it was amazing. Actually, Bob Titmus was involved in some pretty scurrilous things later. He was in Reading, I guess, and when him and Jerry and Peter Byrne used to walk the trail sometimes, it was very rare that they would be together, because Bob was doing this special secret assignment for Harry the Millionaire, and he wouldn't talk about it. And there was one time when the three of them were out on a trail together, and they looked down and they saw these bear prints, and he goes, oh, baby Bigfoot. And Jerry and Peter look at each other like, what? That's a bear print. He goes, that's a baby Bigfoot. And he took pictures and everything, and he sent them to the Millionaire in Texas. And like, what? Yeah. They were just shaking their head going, oh, man. And later on, he had been sending hairs of a Bigfoot to him in Texas, and he went to visit him. Jerry did in Redding, and the very the very weekend when he found out that he had sent the hairs, he went in and visited him. He was doing a taxidermy moose with the same hair. So, but there's a huge story I'm not going to tell.
You gotta
That's
wait for
in the
the movie.
script.
You gotta wait
Yeah,
for the
it's in the
movie.
script. Yeah, it's a
I don't
the
want to be a
secret
spoiler.
project revealed. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
Well, going back to Jerry Crew,
yeah.
your great uncle, back when he was doing the tractor, and I don't know, maybe this information's out there or anything, but I can't really recall. But what what kind of machine was he operating when he found the prints? Was that a
Well, it
bolt?
was one of those. What was it called? You know, it's funny because Jonathan from the Bigfoot Western, he sent me a picture out of this book that was found in Iowa of Jerry sitting in the crawler on the road with a
Uh-huh.
car and some other people around him. That's it. That's the scene of the crime right there. I've
Yeah,
never seen any of that, and
right.
I'm hoping to get some pictures from Hiram, his oldest son, because I guess that's who has all the pictures. So I'm trying to get those. But there it was, man. Scene of the crime, baby. It was a crawler. It was one of the crawlers, and
Oh,
they
I
would,
see.
yeah, they would bulldoze the rest of anything that was in the way, like they would cut down the trees, but Jerry would come in with his crawler and pull out the roots and make sure the road was clear. And
The
so there it
slash.
was, man.
Yeah.
But
So
that's what he
okay,
found the tracks around. Yeah,
I think I did read that he was cleaning up the slash stuff, and
yeah,
that then he so so they came in and they were making new roads.
carving a path into the forest. Yeah.
Okay, and that was for the timber industry, I believe, right, or something.
Well, yeah, for anything. I mean, they had no roads. It was just like virgin forest. They were just kind of trying to get roads through it, and obviously, yeah, at first for the timber industry, yeah.
Yeah.
But man, talk about virgin forest, man. Really, really, you know, anything could be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
and
other
the
thing
history
too,
of Mount Shasta.
yeah,
There's a lot of strange things supposedly
yeah,
that
that's
happens.
true. Yeah, yeah, a lot. Yeah. So the other thing was when he was working there is I think it was just previously and maybe even during when the Sasquatch reportedly came and were throwing giant vats, the 50-gallon oil cans.
Oh, that
In,
was 500-gallon oil
yeah,
can.
500
Yeah,
gallon,
literally
giant
picked it up,
and
picked it.
giant wheels from
Yeah, a
tractors
giant tractor wheel. But those
hundreds
are
of
very
pounds.
famous. They picked up the oil can and walked it over and threw it over the. It's 500 pounds. That's how strong they were.
So it didn't
They didn't
just push it
drag
and
it,
toss it; it actually carried it and threw it.
carried it and threw it over. Holy moly! And then they found it at the bottom of the ravine. Also, the tire, they rolled that down, but they put it right over the edge. And
Yeah.
yeah, those are very famous. And like, let me tell you, I mean, Ray was really pissed off because all his guys were spooked, man. They were spooked. And when the article came out, man, people were quitting left and right. He goes, "Yep, we've heard these things. I'm out of here. I'm out of here." And he lost a lot of people. And he was thought someone was trying to destroy his business. And so then when all this incredible press, like that was the first thing to go viral back in 58. It was just so intense, with the all these people nationwide, like and literally 2,500 requests coming in 1 week to Humboldt Times. Genzoli was going nuts. He called Jerry. Good. Do you know what he started? He goes, Jerry was horrified. Jerry's a very humble man, and he was like, "Oh my goodness," he had no idea. And yeah, it was just quite a statement. But that made Ray go nuts because Ray liked to be the center of attention all the time. He was always telling wild stories about UFOs and about all this crazy stuff, anything in the woods. Um, and boy, he did not like that. First of all, that the fact that his people were quitting, but secondly, that he wasn't the center of attention. So that just made him burn. And he finally just got a hold of that friend of his who carved those prints, and he got him dropped off, and he supposedly, he went down to some creek and stomped all over and whatever, and uh, actually years later, Peter said that there was he was very scared because this guy that he got the prints from, he thought he was hunting for him. because the guy thought Ray made all this money off his prints. He never got a dime, and he really didn't. But he said that Ray was always, have an eye over the shoulder because it was like Wyatt Earp. He's afraid he's going to get shot.
Well,
So
the other thing too, I remember reading it was about it's not, I guess it's not as common knowledge, but if you look a little bit about the Sasquatch allegedly picking up like these huge spools of cable that
yeah,
were
oh yeah,
like 1,000 pounds,
yeah,
like
yeah,
a wad or
yeah.
of cable,
Yeah.
and lifting them up and throwing them.
That's right. There's a lot of
No
there's a
way you
lot of
could hoax that.
yeah. I mean, come on, it's not humanly possible.
Right.
These were things that are capable of great feats of strength, and just the fact that they could literally go down a ravine that fast and that steep. I mean, humans would just break all their legs. It's like, and that's why he was so confused because he saw these so many prints around and they go right over the edge. Like there was one time that Ray hired a very famous hunter who brought in these dogs, and they're very famous. They hunt bear, anything. They just get on the scent and they go. And we have the scene in the film, and they took him out on this road, and they thought they saw something, and the dogs got a scent, and they bolted over the edge of the road into the ravine. And they just said, okay, it's just waiting time. We're just going to wait. So they waited there. They heard him barking and barking, barking, getting farther and farther away. And then it was just quiet. And then from the very distance, they heard like, something got hurt. And later on, they found these dogs had been destroyed.
Wow.
Yeah. So pretty creepy, man.
I think I
Pretty.
almost heard, unless I got it wrong, is that they were actually pulled in half or something.
Yeah. So just really, yeah,
Really
really horrible.
macabre. Yeah,
Yeah.
something,
That's right.
something you
That's right.
wouldn't think of anything like. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy, man, crazy. And
Oh,
there's one time where um Jim, my uncle Jim, and Jerry were on the road at night. They were going back somewhere, and one went right across the road, and Jerry just stopped for a second, and they stopped the car, and they got out. You could smell it, um, and they looked over to the edge of it, and they couldn't see anything. But the irony is, Jerry never physically saw one, like more than a second, And it's the irony of him discovering all this stuff and never actually seeing one. Jim saw one. And my father, he never ever saw one, but he heard them at night. He heard them, that howl. I told you that story about Jim, right? My uncle
I don't
on the
remember.
Harley.
Oh,
This,
go ahead and tell that one again. That was a good story.
well, that's, yeah, it's, he was coming back on one of those roads they had carved, and it was getting dark, and he's riding his Harley, and he's got his laundry on the back, and he's just trying to get there before the dark, falls, because it's really dark at night. And he's had a little motorhome, a little trailer, and he's going, and all of a sudden the sprocket broke on his bike, and he had to stop, and he had to just leave it there and try to make it back. So he grabbed his laundry. He's walking up this road trying to, get back before a complete blackness sets in. He looks down and he sees the creek right there through the trees, and something is following him. Something is shadowing him. And he walked faster, and it started to walk faster, and he started to get creeped out, and he started to run, and it ran. And finally he just got mad, and he got down and he grabbed a rock and he threw it, and it hit it. And the thing got down on its knees and howled. And Jim said, I never will ever forget that howl in my life. All my hair stood up. I ran back to the trailer. And later on in life, he had heard recordings of a baby Bigfoot doing the same howl, and he knew what it was immediately. But that's one of the first scenes in the film. Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, it was amazing. And he saw it, he saw the deal. Yeah. But from a distance, but still, like, I mean, can you imagine being out in the woods at night alone? Wow. I mean, I
It hits a
love the
Bigfoot
redwood.
with a rock.
Oh yeah, wow. He's got some cojones. Yeah.
Yeah,
My uncle is really cool, Jim. He's the only one of the few that's still around.
uh,
Um, he was later worked at the Steinhardt Aquarium in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. And we'd go visit him, and he'd take us behind the scenes. He'd be swimming with the dolphins. he took me behind and showed me the needle-nosed gar that he was feeding. I
Uh,
mean, he actually went on to save like incredibly bald eagles and all these giant snakes and everything. I mean, he was just really amazing guy, the coolest uncle in the world. And yeah, so and he's the one that just let me borrow all the Bigfoot articles and the stacks of magazines and just stacks. I got to get these all digitized, just preserve them.
yeah,
I want to do it professionally.
right.
Um, yeah, and then I'm going to give it all back. I'm trying to get one of the Meldrum casts to get back to him with it. Yeah, so, but so I'm hoping Jeff gets better. But
Yeah,
yeah,
really.
fascinating stuff.
Yeah. The other thing, I mean, just think about it. I mean, just the Jerry Crew encounter. I mean, I know it's part of a lot of different encounters in that area at that time, and it kind
Yep.
of spread to the world, right?
Well,
But
people start realizing, yeah, there's something here that thing that I saw that was that. They start going, oh, okay, yeah,
if you put that into, like, take that and put it into its own scenario, like here comes Inspector Columbo, right? And it's a crime scene, right? Put it as a crime scene. Okay, you got footprints,
right,
you've got giant machinery and vats of oil and cables moved. That there's only, if there's a couple persons that are your suspects, there's only one of the suspects that could do that.
yeah,
Okay, bears don't have hands,
yeah,
and they're the only other ones that have the bulk. Moose, there's no moose down there,
yeah,
so that leaves Sasquatch. I mean, there's no other.
yeah.
I mean, unless you had like a giant human, or someone came in the night with forklifts, and they can't go up and down a hill, and
The
it's
elaboration, it would be
dirt.
so elaborate to fool. It would be so elaborate you couldn't do it.
Yeah, you couldn't do it. And then, but if
But
you, and then
Hiram,
the other evidence is he got vocalizations,
oh, yeah,
smell,
yeah,
an eyewitness, uh,
yes,
and then, I mean, you've got everything you could convict Bigfoot
yes,
of being
a
guilty
full
of
spectrum
each
of that.
time of
Yeah.
throwing this shit.
And people say it, oh yeah, and all the rocks that are thrown and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, people say, oh, that's not true. It's like, dude,
I
you're
mean,
not.
there's enough evidence to convict Bigfoot
Yeah,
for vandalizing this site. If you put
absolutely.
Bigfoot on trial,
Yeah.
and you have the lineup, you got a couple just homeless people from Bluff Creek and Willow Creek or whatever, and then you have Bigfoot standing there in the lineup. The only guy that you could convict,
Yeah. Not a lot of choices there. Yeah,
No,
it's overwhelming evidence, but people, they're naturally doubters and
right,
uh yeah, people, that's why I don't like hearing a lot of stuff about Bigfoot and UFOs because it kind
distract,
of what renders it into this supernatural element, which I don't believe Bigfoot is supernatural.
right.
And one of the things that Hiram, his eldest son, Jerry's eldest biological son, Hiram, he, when I talked to him, he was like, well, they kind of, I think they're Nephilim. And if you know anything about Nephilim, which
Yeah,
were
I
the,
know, but they're in the
right,
Bible.
right, fallen angels who mated with women and produced men of great renown, the giants, and there's
And they said
plenty of evidence for that.
they're I think the reason they put it together like that was they were put like a curse on them that they could never die.
Oh,
They were,
well, no, the thing is that they're literally
I
God.
think the
They're,
Mormon Church is said it was Abel, and he was cursed never to die or something, to walk
yeah,
the
yeah.
earth.
Don't pay attention to them. The Mormons got a lot of
The
problems with that.
yeah, the
They got a
Nephilim.
lot of money, but they got a lot of problems. Basically, the Mormons come from it's the two people that started the whole thing was they were into the occult and they were using divination to try to find gold in the backyard. Divination meaning, and they had entity, they had a familiar, and they were using the occult to find treasure. And at
Like a
one point,
divining rod.
well, it was even worse than that, but yeah, there is like that's part of it actually. But they went out into this back area, and an entity appeared before them that was so evil, the guy thought he was just going to explode and die. and then suddenly it became this beautiful angel, Moroni, and that's where they based all of Mormonism on. And yeah, so without going into too much of that, but it's a cult based, and I could talk for hours about it, but we won't go into that. But yeah, I don't know that there isn't a strain of Nephilim blood in the Bigfoots, but I don't think so. And one of the things that's a misconception is like, oh, they're interdimensional, they can disappear and they can do all this. No, you don't understand. They travel in families. So all of a sudden you see one pop up, go, oh, okay, and then it disappears. It goes behind something, and then it appears 500 feet down there. Oh, it's interdimensional. No, it's traveling in a pack. They have a family, and they look the same.
Yeah.
So don't you misunderstand that. Yeah, I think that's an easy explanation for that.
Right. Well, Daniel Perez was talking, and he said, I don't remember when this was, but he was saying to the same subject that why don't gorillas shapeshift? Why don't gorillas go in and out and get out of the zoo? Or, why don't orangutans shapeshift or disappear or anything, or humans? Because we're all, similar hominids, ape,
Yeah,
but none of us are
you're straying
capable.
into the evolutionary aspect of things, and I don't believe that,
I
but
mean, we're
I
all
understand the point.
similar
I
in,
understand the point.
I mean, they're hairy
Yeah,
hominid,
yeah, right.
upright walking
Mammals.
bipeds,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And you don't see a moose doing it, or do you know what I'm saying, right?
yeah, absolutely. I think that uh,
I'm
there's
not
a fine
saying it's
line between
impossible.
supernatural and natural.
Yeah,
So, of course, you don't see apes being able to disappear out of their zoo, because they're not supernatural. And giving Bigfoot supernatural elements, I think, is a mistake. Um, and it puts it in that category of unbelievable, or just more, unbelievable stuff like UFO stuff. Now all this UFO stuff is coming out like crazy. Everyone's saying, "Oh, UFOs, UFOs, UFOs." These are not from another planet. I don't believe that they're from another planet. And oh, we created you. All this stuff. They're interdimensional beings, and once again, it's hyperdimensional. But I don't believe Bigfoots are hyperdimensional. So. But and Jerry didn't either. He didn't know what the heck was going on. He was just
yeah.
like, you know what, this is what I do. This is what I'm doing. I can't tell you anymore. And I know that I smelled them and felt their presence. And just like Uncle Jim said, I've seen them. I smelled it. I feel them when they're looking at me. Um, yeah. So
Well, do
yeah.
ghosts, interdimensionals, or any of those things smell? I mean, I don't
What do you
know.
say? Do you say ghosts?
Really, yeah. Do ghosts smell, or
Well,
interdimensional beings
ghosts,
smell?
ghosts, ghosts aren't what they purport to be. Ghosts aren't dead people roaming the earth. Ghosts are, once again, there's an element of it's an interdimensional being trying to pretend they're a ghost. Okay, so well, I went to that séance and I heard Aunt Millie's voice and I smelled her perfume. It must be her. These are entities that go back thousands and thousands of years. They
But
know exactly what it's going to take to suck you in.
but do they
Okay,
smell?
I'm sorry.
Do they smell?
Well, yeah, whatever they can do it. A
Well,
demon can do
well,
anything. Can
demons
manifest
demons
as
can smell then.
absolutely. They can manifest in many many different ways because they serve the father of lies. They are part of that. They can
Right,
fool
right.
you. You
Yeah.
know. So so
But
maybe I'm sure there are some demonic manifestations of Bigfoot.
yeah,
You know
but can
that.
they leave footprints?
Well, sure. Well, I don't know. I mean, but a
I
Nephilim
don't
can
know. I
leave
don't mean I don't
footprints.
know. I mean, I just thinking that what makes most sense to me is it's just a really rare animal.
No, I don't believe they're animal. I believe they're human. I think that they are, like we talked about, micro and macro evolution. They're
Right.
micro evolution. They are adults, or the humans that, because of a great something that happened, they were forced to live in the forest, like the Great Madrid earthquake that the Mississippi ran backwards in the
Uh,
1700s, and all these rivers were just completely destroyed by mountains falling, and everyone freaked out and ran. And some of the Indians, they freaked out and ran into the forest, and through interbreeding, because they lost a lot of the women and children, and living in the syncopation of survival in the forest, became these things, became, they adapted and became like forest people.
Well, what do
You
you
know,
think? What do you think of the concept of four subspecies of Sasquatch like animals or people like wild people? And
yeah,
what it's breaking down to is what I've heard was you got the classic Patty Bigfoot,
right.
then you have a more one that's kind of in between that and human, and then you got the smaller, taller one down in Florida, skunk ape type, and then you have one that's like what they call maybe like a baboon, like dog man type baboon kind of creature. And I've heard it broken down into those four, and then like when the different sightings seem to fit into those four categories. But I don't
Mhm.
know if you look at a midget like Billy Barty, remember him? It was a little
I
white.
knew his son. I worked with a lot of little people, and
Oh,
you
okay.
never say midget. You say little people, unless
Okay.
they're in the freak show business. Then they want to be called a
Oh,
midget.
okay. Say
I
say
learned the hard way.
a little person. I'm always getting in trouble for my mouth, but
Yeah,
a little person that's saying has albinism, and
yeah,
then standing next to them is Shaq, the basketball player.
yeah, yeah.
Would you think that was two separate species? I mean, if you came from somewhere else, third party out from like an alien or
I
something,
get it. I get it. Yeah.
then you'd think that's two different species. You know what I
But
mean?
once again, we're talking about microevolution, the adaptation of species, and distortion through disease, through other all kinds of things all over the world that change the way people adapt to their environment. It's
Yeah,
the
you're
same
gonna
thing.
have to live
It's
in
just
the
a nuance
snow
I have.
high Alps or the low African deserts. You're gonna
Right.
adapt to the you're gonna get
Absolutely.
an adaptation to the environment. Like you're gonna
Yep.
need less water in the desert,
Right.
more fat against the cold.
Right.
If
Less
there's
water in the desert, no more.
yeah. So yeah. Well, that's
No,
it.
I mean, I have no problem with that. I mean, of course, in the different areas and different parts, there are going to be adaptations that are different. Um,
Well, what about let's get back to Jerry Crew since that's kind of what we're talking about. What after that? After the whole hurricane of the Bigfoot scenario in the Humboldt article, where did he go from there? What was the
well, I
next?
mean, there was like three major accidents that he had. Like doing this logging is extremely dangerous. I mean, it's so dangerous. Um, there were three major accidents that he had. One was he was well, actually, my uncle Jim had a terrible accident too. They were logging, and they were he was in the crawler, and they would strap down a log that was to be put on the truck, and there was a kind of strap that went with it, they the way they adjusted it. And there was at one point where you release the strap, and then he picks it up and puts it on the thing. Well, somehow the strap came off and hit my uncle right in the face, man, and knocked him down, and he had to go to the hospital, and it was really, really bad. And he recovered pretty quick and got back on the side. But Jerry had like three major accidents. One where he completely broke his back,
Oh,
um, and he had recovered from that after like 6 months, and he finally made it back out to the side, and he was doing it fine. And all of a sudden, he stepped on a giant rusty nail,
no.
and it's like three in a row. It's like, you know what? I better do something else, And so he started studying to be an engineer for airlines, and he got a job with Boeing in San Francisco. And so he got out of the logging business because he just wanted to, not die in the woods, because it's so, oh my goodness, it's really scary. Yeah, and like
He's an
there's not.
engineer, and what did he do? What was his like? You said he did magic for you, and
Oh, he was so cool. Yeah, he would always do. He was always working with the Hopi Indian children. He would play with them and take them to Sunday school, and he would show them magic tricks. And he used to come over and do. He had a little ball of foil, and he would make it disappear and all this crazy stuff. And he showed me how to do the French drop, which is the first trick I ever learned. I became a magician when I was 13. My father took me to a really cool magic shop and bought me a bunch of tricks, and I started doing birthday parties and stuff. But it was so much fun. But yeah, he was just like that. He was very personable, and very real, very in your face, but very nice. And
he was
yeah,
married, and he had what, two sons or
I think he had two sons and a few daughters, and um, his first wife really tragically burned to death in front of his two of his kids.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
her robe caught fire in their cabin, and they tried to put it out, and she literally burned to death in front of her two kids. So they were traumatized.
Oh my God.
Uh,
You're
yeah, they couldn't even dare. My mom said she saw them as kids, and whenever they even lit a match, they would shake. And so we cover a little bit of that, and it's like the things people go through. Wow. And he
yeah.
eventually got married again, and yeah, so he'd been through a lot, and so this was a really out of this world thing to happen for someone like a simple,
He
you know.
never tried to cash in on the Bigfoot
Oh
though.
no,
He
no, no.
never. I don't think he ever
Should have
went on
copyrighted it, man.
television. Yeah,
He was on.
I don't
Everyone
think.
says, "Oh, he didn't make up Bigfoot." Yes, he did. I heard an interview with one of the loggers, who said before he took the cast in to Genzoli on Humboldt Times, he would say, "Oh, come here, check it out. Bigfoot was here last night." He'd show him all the tracks around the crawler. I heard eyewitness testimony of that. So yeah, he's the one that named Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, Genzoli likes to take credit for that, but and everyone thinks, oh, Jared Crew, he just followed Ray Wallace around. No, you just don't know any facts. That's what really, really struck me, that I had to write the story and tell the truth, to
right.
just clean up all the nonsense from these fakers that are all around him. Yeah.
But
So,
Jerry Crew never did like the television circuit or anything like that, right?
oh no, but
He was just,
I do have some recordings of him giving some Bigfoot talks.
oh,
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, I have that Wade sent me, and it's
You
so
guys should
strange.
publish those.
I'm sorry.
You guys should publish those somehow so
Well, I
people.
want to put them on the end of the film for the
Oh, that'd be awesome.
credits. Yeah.
So
Um,
it's only a minute and 40 seconds left. So just could you tell us just a real quick summation of the film?
well, basically, it's the story of what happened in 1958 when Jerry went to work and found the tracks, and all the crazy people that were involved. From Bob Titmus, who showed him how to make the track, to Ray Wallace, who tried to fake the tracks, through all the press that came in, and how he actually he ended up dying. I think he had cancer. I'm not sure. He died, and my father and uncle were around him, and it's just the legacy of his life, um, and it really it changed everything. I mean, it went from Sasquatch to Bigfoot because of Jerry.
And that's the movie, The Print.
Yeah,
So
the print.
we're out of time, but thanks a lot, Carl, for coming and
Oh,
sharing
sure.
all that. And
Oh,
we're
I'm
looking
not going to be able to
forward.
sing my Bigfoot song. I have a Bigfoot song.
Sing
Ready?
quick.
One, two, three. No, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks
Yeah, I'll keep
again.
you posted.
Okay, it'll be posted like in about 10 minutes from now.
No, I'll keep you posted about everything that's
Oh, I
going
thought you.
on.
I'll keep bugging you to do some more.
Yeah, please do, man. I love it. All right. God bless you, man. I'll talk to you
Okay,
soon.
God bless you
Take
too.
care.
Have a
Bye.
good day.
Bye.